An operation was being coordinated with approximately 250 to 275 people estimated to be present at the location. The exact count proved difficult. Preparations needed to accommodate up to 300 people by arrival time. A cargo container mounted on an 18-wheeler truck can only hold a maximum of 160 people, packed tightly together. The exit route ran via Via de la Amistad, stretching east-west approximately 1 mile from Highway 905. Personnel were equipped with HMEs, mortars, tear gas, and various supplies. The operational objective was clearly defined: to create a spectacular display marking the announcement of a revolutionary movement. Team 2's entrance was confirmed to run north-south. Radio communication was established on Channel 5, with all team leaders receiving wireless communication devices. The operation commenced with tactical precision. Gate security was neutralized. Military personnel were awakened and restrained with their hands secured. The individual known as Perfidia Beverly Hills confronted Captain Stephen J. Lockjaw, an Army officer. A declaration of war was announced, declaring intent to address long-standing grievances. The message was framed around freedom of borders, bodily autonomy, freedom of choice, and liberation from fear. Perfidia continued to address Lockjaw, indicating that an army of insurgents had been cultivated within the governmental structures. The element of surprise worked in the revolutionaries' favor. A demonstration of power was conducted in front of the captive military officer. Women and armed operatives took control of the facility, restraining anyone who attempted resistance. A woman experienced profound isolation and emotional distress. She felt invisible and unvalued despite having recently given birth. Physical discomfort accompanied her struggle with milk production and bodily changes. The father of the child possessed minimal understanding of her emotional state. A heated confrontation ensued regarding family obligations and personal autonomy. The woman asserted her right to prioritize her own needs and rejected what she perceived as the father's lack of originality. She prepared to leave the home despite the father's attempts to emphasize their family status. An armed robbery was executed at a commercial establishment. A group of revolutionaries entered the location with weapons drawn. The lead revolutionary identified herself by name and explained their purpose: acquiring funds to support their operational capabilities, including artillery, supplies, transportation, and explosives. The revolutionary explicitly stated that she represented Black revolutionary power. A warning shot was fired to ensure compliance from all people present. Music played from a vinyl record as scenes unfolded in an interior space. A cigarette lighter was clicked repeatedly. Incense or cannabis smoke filled the room. Historical photographs of American presidents and founding figures adorned the walls. A history teacher provided an assessment of a young student's academic performance, noting the student's confidence, leadership qualities, strong work ethic, and positive classroom presence. The student's peers held the individual in high regard. The father learned that the student had never known their biological mother, who had died when the individual was very young. The emotional revelation caused the father to become visibly moved. Tears of joy were expressed regarding the student's academic achievements and character development, despite the absence of maternal care during their formative years. A formal gathering took place at a military establishment. Superiors and colleagues greeted a high-ranking officer named Colonel Stephen J. Lockjaw. The discussion centered on rumors regarding a mixed-race child allegedly fathered by Lockjaw. This information had surfaced in old classified files. The biological mother was identified as a Black militant revolutionary, now deceased. Lockjaw had hired operatives to conduct a civilian extraction in El Paso. A bounty hunter named Avanti Q led the operation. Intelligence revealed that one of Lockjaw's former associates, Howard Somerville, was operating an underground railroad, bringing undocumented immigrants from the southern border to a sanctuary city in Bactan Cross. Somerville was providing employment and housing to various marginalized populations. A military raid was authorized against a frozen poultry processing facility to apprehend the high-value targets. The interrogation of Somerville occurred in a secure location. Questions were posed regarding the identities and whereabouts of the revolutionary operatives. Somerville initially provided coded false information, claiming characters from fictional television shows. When threatened by family members, Somerville disclosed that the targets were Bob Ferguson and his daughter, Willa Ferguson, located in Bactan Cross. A young girl played with a dog inside a residential home. Military personnel were briefed on Operation Boot Heel, targeting the sanctuary city of Bactan Cross. The operational objectives included capturing 2 high-value individuals, an adult male and a juvenile female. The helicopter aircraft approached the location. Ground forces were mobilized for the assault. Subterranean tunnel systems were discovered beneath the facility. Tear gas was deployed as a dispersal agent. Bob Ferguson, identified as one of the primary targets, was caught in the chemical agent. Coughing and struggling with respiratory distress, Ferguson attempted to escape through the toxic environment. Ferguson managed to establish contact via telephone with a member of the resistance. The coded greeting required specific passwords to verify identity. Ferguson struggled to recall the proper authentication sequence, but eventually provided his identity as a former revolutionary operative with years of experience in the movement. The call handler maintained strict protocol requiring the correct time-related password. Ferguson expressed frustration at the stringent requirements while his daughter remained in custody. A woman named Reina ended her work shift to respond to an emergency. Sergio St. Carlos, a trainer at a martial arts facility, prepared for action. Military forces had attacked his location and a companion named Willa. Firearms were obtained from a secure storage location. References were made to the French 75 Revolutionary Group and their involvement with law enforcement pursuits. The situation was described as a coordinated roundup of movement members. A reunion occurred at a residence as Sergio's family welcomed visitors. Children were asked to leave the room as a sensitive discussion took place. Bob Ferguson needed immediate assistance locating his daughter. A phone number was called to request support and coordinates for a rendezvous location. Ferguson conducted negotiations with a resistance leader calling himself Comrade Josh. The interaction involved an elaborate verbal authentication system based on revolutionary philosophy. Ferguson expressed frustration with the complex protocols and threatened escalation by invoking hierarchical procedures. Josh maintained his position regarding the password requirements. Eventually, Ferguson was granted coordinates to a location called Sisters of the Brave Beaver, situated in the Chupacabra Hills region. Ferguson and Sergio drove toward the destination following the provided coordinates. Military vehicles were spotted pursuing them. The safe house location was compromised. Law enforcement and the army forces surrounded the residence. Sergio provided driving instructions to Ferguson, maintaining the vehicle's movement while emergency services approached. Ferguson prepared to abandon the car through a tactical exit maneuver. A meeting was convened at a government facility. Senior officials discussed allegations that Colonel Lockjaw had fathered a mixed-race child. Background investigations had uncovered classified records dating back 15 years. The biological mother was confirmed as a deceased Black revolutionary militant. Intelligence indicated that Lockjaw had contracted private military contractors to perform extractions. Avanti Q, a tracker of mixed indigenous heritage, had successfully located Howard Somerville. Somerville operated a sanctuary city network providing safe passage and housing for undocumented immigrants and individuals engaged in criminal enterprises. Somerville also maintained a cannabis addiction. Military assets were mobilized to conduct a high-level raid against a processing facility to apprehend the target individuals. Surveillance detected a vehicle traveling through mountainous terrain containing a white male driver and a black female passenger. The destination was identified as a compound operated by nuns engaged in cannabis cultivation. The compound housed approximately 10 to 20 female residents, none of whom appeared to have any weapons on them. Military forces proceeded with standard operational procedures. Imagery and reconnaissance were coordinated. Soldiers moved into position around the compound. Lockjaw entered the compound alone and located the young girl Willa in a confined space. A device was produced, a genealogical testing apparatus. Lockjaw explained that if the results showed a straight line of genetic connection, Willa had a significant problem. The test was processed and the results were observed. Lockjaw questioned the teenager about age and romantic relationships. Willa asserted her independence and refused to answer direct questions. Lockjaw indicated that she was too young for such relationships anyway. Military interrogation proceeded with threats of federal imprisonment and offers of assistance if Willa provided information about Bob Ferguson's location and other revolutionary contacts. Willa maintained her position that her biological father was someone else entirely, regardless of genetic evidence. She refused to acknowledge Lockjaw's paternity claim. Lockjaw became visibly angry and verbally abusive toward the teenager. A transport vehicle was called to remove Willa. A confrontation between Lockjaw and Ferguson culminated in physical combat. Willa was injured during the altercation. Dialogue between the two men centered on the nature of the revolutionary movement and the identity of Willa's mother. Lockjaw contacted a private military operative named Avanti regarding a disposal operation. The target was identified as a juvenile with alleged criminal connections. Avanti refused the assignment on ethical grounds regarding the age of the target. Lockjaw offered financial incentives. Avanti continued to refuse. Alternative arrangements were made, with drop-off at a specified location near the Rio Grande River to be handled by other personnel. Bob Ferguson expressed remorse and grief regarding his inability to protect his daughter from Lockjaw's pursuit. He reflected on his expectation that Willa's deceased mother might eventually return to provide maternal guidance. Ferguson acknowledged his inadequacy in hair care and other maternal responsibilities. Sergio offered emotional support and encouragement. Vehicle operation became dangerous with law enforcement in pursuit. Ferguson executed an evasive maneuver at a gas station, allowing Sergio to exit from the moving vehicle. The vehicle continued under Ferguson's control, while Sergio moved on foot toward safety. Physical combat resumed between Lockjaw and Bob Ferguson. The military officer invoked his membership in an exclusive organization called the Christmas Adventurers Club and its higher calling. Willa attempted to resist and escape. Gunfire erupted as military forces engaged with Ferguson. Lockjaw and Ferguson exchanged verbal accusations regarding Willa's mother. Ferguson asserted that the deceased revolutionary woman had been a warrior fighting for freedom. Lockjaw characterized her as mentally unstable and dangerous. References were made to Willa's maternal heritage and the expectation of familial respect. Military interrogators questioned Lockjaw regarding allegations of sexual assault perpetrated by enemy forces. Lockjaw's response indicated that the opposing forces had recognized his power and sought to possess it through violation. A promotion ceremony was conducted, awarding Lockjaw full membership in the Christmas Adventurers Club. Leadership praised his commitment and presented him with an office suite at organizational headquarters. Lockjaw displayed emotional gratification at this recognition. He was informed that membership benefits included permanent housing availability and personalized office space. Bob Ferguson held a letter he had preserved for years. The correspondence was from Perfidia, Willa's biological mother, addressed to her daughter. Ferguson explained his hesitation in sharing the letter earlier, citing his desire to shield Willa from traumatic information and his own emotional baggage. He emphasized his intention to be supportive. The letter was provided to Willa for private reading. Perfidia's letter contained reflections on her revolutionary activities and personal failure. She expressed wonder about her daughter's happiness, safety, and future direction. She acknowledged her lifetime of deception and pretense regarding her strength and circumstances. She questioned whether reconciliation was possible after years of separation and lies. She hoped Willa would succeed where revolutionary movements had failed. She constantly thought about her daughter and felt regret at being unable to provide strength for both of them. She expressed confidence that someday, under safe circumstances, her daughter would locate her. The letter concluded with affectionate greetings and was signed as Perfidia. Bob Ferguson attempted to use a smartphone camera with Willa's assistance. They discussed technical adjustments to activate the flash function. A radio broadcast was received indicating that military raids were occurring in Oakland, with a meeting point designated as Lincoln Park for protesters. Willa realized the broadcast signaled urgent action was needed. She showed intent to travel to Oakland despite the distance and adverse weather conditions. Bob offered safety reminders as Willa prepared to depart.